He finally gained the power to destroy everything that ever caged him. And that's the moment he stopped being free. On the surface, Attack on Titan is a story about survival. Humanity trapped behind walls. Gigantic creatures outside them. A constant, suffocating fear of being eaten alive. And at the center of it all is Eren Yeager, a boy who looks at those walls and feels something deeper than fear. He feels insulted. Because to him, the walls aren't protection. They're proof that he was born into a cage. But that's not what this story is really about. Because the Titans, the wars, the politics. They're not the point. They're just the shape the real conflict takes. What literally happens, Eren watches his mother die, helpless, pinned under rubble, unable to save her as a Titan devours her in front of him. At face value, it's trauma. The origin of his rage. The reason he vows to destroy every Titan. But psychologically, something much more specific happens here. This isn't just grief. It's humiliation. Eren isn't just losing someone he loves. He's being forced to witness his own powerlessness. And for some people, that's worse. Because grief says, something precious was taken from you. But humiliation says, you were never strong enough to protect it. And that difference matters. Because from this moment on, Eren isn't just chasing revenge. He's chasing the version of himself who would never have to feel that small again. And if you're honest, you may have felt a version of this too. Not with Titans. But with moments where life made you feel weak, exposed, replaceable. Moments you quietly promised yourself would never happen again. What literally happens, Eren discovers he can turn into a Titan, the very thing he swore to destroy. At face value, it's ironic. The enemy becoming the weapon. But psychologically, it's something far more uncomfortable. Because this is the moment the story introduces a dangerous idea: sometimes, the only way to fight what hurt you, is to become a version of it. Eren gains power. But it comes at the cost of becoming something monstrous. And here's the part most viewers feel but don't consciously register: he doesn't hesitate for long. Because power doesn't just solve problems. It justifies itself. Once you feel what it's like to no longer be helpless, it becomes very hard to go back. And this maps onto real life more than we like to admit. People who were once controlled, become controlling. People who were hurt, become capable of hurting. Not because they're evil. But because power feels like safety. And safety feels like freedom. Even when it isn't. What literally happens, the truth about the world is uncovered. Humanity isn't alone. The walls weren't the whole story. At face value, it's a plot twist. A massive expansion of the world. But psychologically, this is the moment the entire meaning of the story shifts. Because Eren finally gets what he thought he wanted, the truth. And it doesn't free him. It traps him even more. Because now, his enemies aren't monsters. They're people. And that changes everything. Because it's easy to hate something inhuman. It's simple. Clean. But when your enemy has a face, a history, a reason, hatred becomes complicated. And Eren rejects that complexity. Not consciously. But emotionally. Because accepting it would mean questioning his entire identity. And most people don't do that. Most people would rather double down on their narrative, than dismantle the version of themselves built on it. What literally happens, Eren unleashes destruction on a global scale, an unstoppable force flattening everything beyond the island. At face value, it's catastrophic. The ultimate act of war. But psychologically, this is the moment Eren finally achieves absolute freedom. No one can stop him. No walls. No enemies. No limits. And yet, this is also the moment he becomes the most trapped. Because here's the quiet truth the story builds toward: if your idea of freedom requires the destruction of everything else, then you were never free to begin with. You were just reacting. Eren isn't choosing freely. He's following a path shaped by trauma, fear, and identity. A path that feels inevitable, because he never learned how to exist without something to fight. And that's the moment the film quietly changes. Because now, the question isn't, will he win? It's, was there ever a version of him that could have chosen differently? At its core, Attack on Titan isn't about titans. It's about the psychology of freedom. Or more specifically, why so many people chase it in ways that guarantee they'll never feel it. Eren believes freedom means the absence of constraints. No walls. No enemies. No one telling him what he can or cannot do. But real freedom isn't external. It's internal. It's the ability to exist without being controlled by your past, your fear, or your need to prove something. And Eren never reaches that. Because everything he does, even his most independent choices, are reactions. To trauma. To anger. To the version of himself he refuses to let go of. He wasn't chasing freedom. He was chasing relief. And those are not the same thing. Most people won't flatten the world. But they will build their lives around avoiding a feeling. The feeling of being powerless. The feeling of being unseen. The feeling of not being enough. And in doing so, they create their own kind of walls. Careers chosen out of fear. Relationships built on control. Identities shaped by what they're running from, not what they truly want. And from the outside, it can look like success. Strength. Independence. Certainty. But internally, it feels like pressure. Because when your entire life is built on proving something, you can never stop. You can never rest. You can never be free. And that's what makes Eren's story so uncomfortable. Not because it's extreme. But because it's recognizable. Eren got what he wanted. Power. Control. The ability to shape the world itself. And it still didn't give him peace. Because peace was never waiting at the end of that path. It was something he would have had to choose long before. In smaller moments. Quieter ones. The kind where you don't destroy your enemies, you outgrow them. But Eren never learned how to do that. And maybe that's the tragedy. Not that he became a monster. But that he never believed he could be anything else. If this story stayed with you, then there's another character worth exploring.